you guys. We're going to keep going talking about World War II getting started. Appeasement, we'll talk about that definition, make sure you know really well what it is. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the players going into World War II. Then tomorrow, you'll learn more about some of the more specific battles. But first, let's rewind a little bit and talk about World War I. If you guys remember, in 1919, we had Treaty of Versailles, written in France, where the big three were really pretty harsh to Germany. They had to accept most of the blame for World War I, even though they weren't obviously the only people involved. The United States, France, and Great Britain, again, were the big three. They forced Germany to pay $30 billion in reparations. Germany lost territory. They had to give up some of their natural resources. The Rhineland was demilitarized, meaning that there was a zone put in where you could have no military at all. And then we limited their armed forces, not allowing them to have really a military at all because we don't want them to get powerful and start invading people again. So we limit their army, their navy, 100,000 men or less, with no submarines and no airplanes. So you can see why Germany, after World War I, is feeling a little bit slighted. Obviously, that resentment over the course of the years is just going to kind of bubble up and stay there. They're not going to forget the wrong that they felt coming out of World War I. Okay, so I know we've seen this at the grocery store. Let's talk about appeasement a little bit. So this little girl standing in the cereal aisle, or I don't know, that doesn't look like the cereal aisle. Maybe over there on the right side. But she wants desperately to have some yummy, sugary Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Fruit Loops, Lucky Charms, some kind of sugar cereal. Mom and Dad, super organic. They say no chance. Like we're not having that. Let's get plain Cheerios. Then this ensues. And we start screaming and throwing a fit. What do Mom and Dad do? Most moms and dads that I know, myself included sometimes, are like, just get the small box. Like, we're just getting the small box. We're going to appease her. We're going to make her stop throwing this fit right now by giving her something small that she wants, knowing that, yes, she might have sugary cereal once, but we're going to limit that intake every other time. So appeasement then is giving in slightly just to keep the peace. We want the fit to stop, so I'm going to give you something small right now to appease you, to make you stop doing what you're doing. So keep that in mind as we go forward, that's what appeasement is, kind of giving in to create a larger peace, maybe. 1933, Adolf Hitler, we know, becomes the chancellor, the leader of Germany, and he wants to create more living spaces around the country. And when he means living spaces, he means for the people like him, not just everybody. A couple of pictures, you guys can see the big map laid out. He's got his military leaders all surrounding him. We can assume that he is probably picking out some of those living spaces. 1935, he announces the expansion of the military to 600,000 members. If you guys remember, Treaty of Versailles said that Germany was allowed no more than 100,000 members. So this is 6 times the amount permitted. So he has broken the Treaty of Versailles in 1935. 1936, Hitler claims Germany is threatened. He sends forces to occupy the Rhineland. Again, if you guys remember back to the Treaty of Versailles, the Rhineland was supposed to be left demilitarized. So there should be no forces, no military occupying the Rhineland at all. You guys can see over there on the left side, the kind of dashed lines. That's supposed to be the demilitarized zone in the Rhineland. 1938, he wants to form a union, an alliance with Austria. Again, forbidden by the Treaty of Versailles. So we can see over the course of the first couple of years that he is leading Germany, he is slowly breaking every single faction sent out by the Versailles Treaty. He is not abiding by that document like he should be. Hitler next claims that his territorial demand in the Sudetenland, it's a small part of Czechoslovakia, where 3 million ethnic Germans lived. Remember, when they lost World War I, they lost part of their land, and that included Czechoslovakia. So it's still predominantly inhabited by Germans. It just had been given its own country. So they invade Czechoslovakia. Again, we are breaking every single thing on that Treaty of Versailles. So, what's the world going to do about it? Like, what are these world leaders, Neville Chamberlain of England, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt of the United States, and Daladier of France, what are they going to do? Like, are they going to let Hitler keep doing what he's doing? What are we going to do? So they get together at the Munich conference. They meet as leaders, France, England, Italy. Czechoslovakia's leaders are not allowed to attend. Germany was allowed to annex, add, invade, take back over portions of Czechoslovakia, including the Sudetenland. So the Munich conference, they all got together to talk about what are we going to do, and they decide to appease Adolf Hitler. We don't want him to throw a big fit. We don't want to have another war. He just wants this one little thing. Let's give him the one little thing, and it'll be over with. This is Neville Chamberlain. Again, he's the Prime Minister of Great Britain. I have met with Hitler, and he agrees to peace in our time if we give him the Sudetenland. Now we have peace. So this is just proof of the appeasement, saying we don't want him to do anything else, so let's give him the Sudetenland. We'll appease him. He will stop doing what he's doing, and we're gonna move forward. So again, appeasement is like feeding a dragon, hoping he will eat you last. Winston Churchill, just fun fact, Neville Chamberlain at the start of all of this madness is the Prime Minister of Great Britain, but as World War II kicks off, Winston Churchill is going to replace him. 1939, Britain and France are officially at war with Germany because Germany invades Poland, which is the last straw. They've appeased Hitler over and over and over and over. They gave him an ultimatum and said, if you invade Poland, we will go to war with you. Hitler tested the waters, and Britain and France declare war on Germany after their invasion of Poland. Chamberlain resigns. He's a little bit embarrassed. Remember, he was part of the appeasement process. Kind of got slapped in the face. Winston Churchill becomes the new British Prime Minister, and we know that both England and France are at war with Germany. At this time, America is an isolationist. We want to avoid international warfare again, but Franklin Roosevelt does decide, well, we don't want to fight. We do have to help support our allies and keep them on the up and up and hopefully in a victorious stance. So the Allies, when we talk about the Allies again, we're talking about the good guys, in our opinion, the United States, France, Great Britain. FDR supports England through the Lend-Lease Act. Lend-Lease is going to mean that we are going to support them, not militarily in terms of troops, but militarily in terms of supplies. After Pearl Harbor, he supervises our transition into wartime industrialization, and he is very active in planning the Allied war strategy against both Germany and Japan, both the European and Pacific theaters. Eisenhower led successful invasions in both North Africa and Italy. He is named the Supreme Commander of all Allied forces in Europe. And he plans and leads the Allied invasion of France that we call it D-Day, but its technical military term was Operation Overlord. General George S. Patton, he led Operation Torch in the invasion of North Africa. He commanded the U.S. Third Army after the Normandy invasion at D-Day, and he inspired his tired troops to victories across France and did break through the lines into Nazi Germany. General Douglas MacArthur, he is the Supreme Commander of the U.S. forces in the Pacific. He is forced to flee the Philippines after Japan attacks. FDR requires him to leave and come back to the United States. He led the U.S. forces through New Guinea, back to the Philippines, and he was on board ship, and he accepted and signed Japan's official surrender in 1945. Winston Churchill, we know, is the Prime Minister of Great Britain. He warned the Allies, the good guys, about Nazi Germany prior to. Remember his quote about, appeasement is like hoping the dragon's going to eat you last. So he was trying to warn us, like, this is coming. We can't keep doing what we're doing. So he becomes the prime minister. He refuses any armistice with Nazi Germany. He will not negotiate. He will not work with them. And his speeches, broadcasts were aired on the radio and were hugely inspiring to not only the British, but even some in the United States. Bernard Montgomery, he commanded the British 8th Army. He led forces through North Africa, led the Allied invasion at Sicily and Italy, and he was in command of Allied ground forces during D-Day at Normandy. Charles de Gaulle, he commanded French Armored Division. He refused to accept France's surrender. He led the Free French government and commanded the French resistance from England and North Africa. So hopefully you'll probably have to go back, maybe review some of those military leaders. I promise there's a handful of those ones that'll end up being in your STAR test next year, especially the U.S. Military leaders. So go back, flip through these slides, answer your lecture questions, turn those in either in your packet or Google Class. If you've got internet, here's a couple of video ideas. That third one, World War II, how did it start? That one's really, really good. But none of them are very long, and they'll answer a whole bunch of questions since we can't be in class to do that. As always, if you need us, if you've got questions, you know our email addresses, drop us a line. We'll figure out how we can best help you. We're in the home stretch, y'all. There's really just not a whole lot left. I can't believe still that we're not back at school. But again, if you need us, let us know. Hope you are doing well and that you enjoy these last couple weeks of online learning and then have a restful, non-quarantine summer.